Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll speak with a local researcher who attended the Paris climate talks. Also tonight, learn how to be better informed about the charities you're looking to support. And we'll check out a remarkable exhibit by artist Bruce Monroe. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Presidential candidate Donald Trump made a campaign stop today in Mesa. Trump was introduced by Sheriff Joe Arpaio and then spoke for more than an hour in front of thousands of cold but enthusiastic supporters at a Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport hangar. Trump's message included promises to kick undocumented immigrants out of the country and to force Mexico to build a massive wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. Trump added that he loves the Mexican people and that, quote, they love me. Tonight's look at sustainability focuses on the Paris climate talks and the reaction of one local researcher who was on hand for the conference. Sonia Klinsky is an assistant professor at ASU School of Sustainability, and she is here to talk about the talks. Good to have you here again. Thanks for joining us.
No, my pleasure.
What are your thoughts on the agreement overall?
I think it's about what we could get. It's the most important part of it is that it sets a process for the next, actually indefinite future, by which countries will continue to increase their levels of ambition. So this agreement was all about creating a framework that will age well and age gracefully. And that's what it does.
Is that how it was different from Copenhagen back in 2009? Because we've talked about this in the past. That was not good.
The Copenhagen talks fell apart because they couldn't get agreement from all the countries. And since then, the international negotiations have done a lot of soul searching about how best to include everybody in this conversation and what it would look like. And so this is built on the Copenhagen Agreement in many important ways. So Copenhagen was a bottom-up agreement. It said, hey, let's everyone put on the table what we can do, and let's move forward from that. And this builds on that, but formalizes it. So it says, yes, let's all put something on the table, but that's not really enough. Let's go back and revisit it every once in a while to make sure we're on track. And so that has a very important, they're calling it a ratchet mechanism. The idea that over time we're going to continually make our commitments more intense. And Copenhagen lacked that. So this is a very important contribution.
With that in mind, and with that, I'm sure that was kind of on the plate there and people were what did you expect when you went there? What were you thinking you'd find and what the results would be, and how did it differ from those expectations?
So I had largely expected that we would end up with something in the realm of a bottom-up agreement, like we have, and by a bottom-up agreement, I mean an agreement where it's really driven by countries. There's no sort of UN body which is dictating to countries, you will do this and you will do this and you will do this. That is not what this agreement does. This agreement says every country in the world, this is a global problem, so every country has to do something. That was the most important thing. And I was expecting that would be part of the conversation, and it was. The other thing it says is every country knows best what it can and cannot do. And that is an important part of the conversation. And that was also part of this, was every country being very clear about what it could and what it could not do. So those things I had expected and we did get.
Is that what differentiation means? I've read reports of that. Differentiation seemed to be a biggie at this conference. So what are you talking about here?
Differentiation is a huge issue in the climate negotiations, and it has been since before the climate negotiations actually started. This is how big an issue it is. Differentiation is basically the conversation about how should very different countries contribute to a problem or the solution to a problem. So let's say you're the United States and I'm South Africa. We are very different countries, and we both have to contribute. So how are we going to find something that's fair when you have different resources and I have totally different needs? Under the Kyoto and Copenhagen agreements, there were different attempts at differentiating countries, and neither of them had really worked. And so differentiation was a key issue here because every country wants to feel that this deal is fair to them. Mm-hmm. No country can take this deal home and expect its citizens to give it the okay if they don't feel it's fair. So differentiation is, how do we create an agreement that respects the fact that every country is different and every country can offer something different? And that's actually a very difficult thing to design legally.
What about differentiation between two behemoths, the U.S. and China? It seemed as though, again, this time around, what we didn't have last time was the U.S. and China even in the same orbit. This time around, it seemed like there was some agreement.
Yeah, no, United States and China have worked really hard in the last couple of years to increase the conversation between the two countries and to kind of get on the same page. And this is, climate is one of those things where people are talking about this year round. We only pay attention to it when we have these big conferences, but these negotiations have been going on for several years. And so China and the United States have had a lot of time to check each other's ideas out and figure out how they're going to deal with it. So they were not the biggest problems, actually. They were quite on board. The way this differentiates is it gives them different kinds of targets. So the United States has very clear targets. It has an emission-wide, economy-wide target, which it will do. China has a peaking target. And by peaking, I mean it has a date by which it says, after this date, we will not continue to increase the amount of emissions. We will peak, and then we will start to reduce emissions. Now that's important because China is still developing, and so it needs some space to grow, but it also needs to recognize that it's not an infinite space to grow.
Right.
And that's what's important in this deal, is it recognizes that from the Chinese perspective.
And as far as this ratcheting idea is, who's going to make sure that you've ratcheted the way you're supposed to ratchet? I mean, what kind of, is there such a thing as compliance here, or is it just we're checking you out kind of thing?
In this agreement, there's not a compliance mechanism as we would expect to have one in domestic law. So if this was a federal law, you'd expect there to be a penalty or a fine. That isn't the way this is set up to work, because they know that that doesn't really work in the international space. We can't force a country to do something that it ultimately doesn't want to do. The way that this will ratchet, though, is it gives civil society, it gives domestic governments an opportunity to hold the feet to the fire, if you will, of that particular country. And they're not allowed to submit a plan which is less ambitious in the future. If countries don't want to do it, they're not going to do it.
Right.
This deal is very pragmatic. This deal says we can't make countries do what countries don't want to do. What we can do is we can create kind of hooks, if you will, for domestic organizations, for domestic governments to grab onto and force progress towards.
Well, with that in mind, though, it sounds like critics are saying that the whole thing falls short. It's not serious enough. Is that what they're talking about? There aren't enough hooks and there's not enough compliance?
So this comes down to really how we think about international governance should work, which seems quite abstract, but really there's kind of two big ways of thinking about this. You can say, well, we should have a global government that works kind of the same way as a domestic government, where there's very clear rules and there's punishment and there's consequences. There's another way of saying it, well, which says sort of countries are different and we can't make countries do what they don't want to do. And instead we have to make processes by which they're evaluated, and there's a transparent process, and they can shame each other, they can beg each other, they can harass each other, they can do whatever they need to do to get progress. And this agreement falls in that model.
And the progress we've seen so far, again, the difference between this and Copenhagen in '09, there's tangible, it would seem as though most folks around the world are getting tangible evidence that something's going on out there. The climate is changing, and acute weather is becoming more acute. The oceans are rising, little islands are disappearing, ice caps are melting. I mean, how much of a factor was that this time around as opposed to '09?
Oh, the feeling in the room is completely different. I was in Copenhagen, I was in Paris. The two negotiations have a totally different feel. These Paris talks were very collegial. They really were every government saying, look, we want to do something. We all have domestic limitations. So what can we do that allows us to really make action regardless of whatever our domestic limitations are? It was an incredibly constructive, forward-looking negotiation where the focus was, we need to do something. We all have limits domestically. What can we do to sit down and hammer something out that allows us to get on with it already? That was the tone.
And as far as the United States is concerned, this is based on an agreement signed way back by George Bush, correct?
So the original agreement goes back to 1992.
Yes.
And that is the convention which this is all based on. And really, that set the initial framework for all of these discussions. And that's been accepted by the American government since 1992. It's not a new thing at all.
But with that in mind, though, I mean, let's say the next president doesn't believe in global warming or doesn't think thinks it's bad for business and doesn't want to pursue this. I mean, the deal is still in place. I mean, Congress can't override it. I mean, what can happen here as far as, basically my question is, what's next for America in this?
I mean, it does depend on the next year in terms of who ends up in the Oval Office. To some extent, any incoming president, if they decided that climate change was not a major global issue, would find themselves in such a minority position globally that they would have very little traction in any other issue, because it would erode their sort of respectability or being taken as a serious sort of leader globally, because every leader globally thinks this is a problem. So if you were the one leader globally that didn't, it would be hard to say that you had a lot of credibility in a lot of other issues, because even countries which have typically been dragging their feet, like Saudi Arabia, were there, they were constructive, they're putting forth domestic plans. There is no country, with the exception of Syria and North Korea, who have other issues right now. That would be the company that the United States would keep if we decided it was not an issue.
All right. Well, great information. Good to have you here. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
Tonight's edition of Arizona Giving and Leading looks at better and more informed giving. A big chunk of charity donations occur during the holidays, and there are ways to make sure your gift goes where intended. Joining us now is Robert Ashcraft, Executive Director of ASU's Lodestar Center for Philanthropy and Nonprofit Innovation. Good to see you back on Arizona
Thank you.
Horizon.
Pleasure to be here.
How do you ensure your donations are going to reputable folks?
It's a great question, and particularly this time of year, I would think of it really, it's the $258 billion question, which is the amount that individuals donated to charitable causes in the last time the data were collected in 2014. So that's a huge question. And out of that number, roughly anywhere, it depends on the community, but about 40% rushes in November and December. So I offer that as sort of a framework for this conversation. It's huge. You know, Ted, there's several things to think about, and it's not one size fits all. There's no easy answer. One cut of this would be the kind of organization that a household or an individual would be intimately familiar with. Maybe it's a school, maybe it's a child care center, a hospital, maybe it's the symphony, something that they intimately, as a patron or as a client, have witnessed firsthand and are a part of, feel grateful for. One could suggest that a charitable donation could be given without a huge amount of analysis of finances and all the other things that would be more important if one had an area of interest, that a purpose, something they care about, that they were less informed about what kind of organization would even be out there that would hit that philanthropic heart. Does that make sense?
Sure,
Yeah.
but let's say during the year something touched you, whether it's a health issue or you adopted an animal, whatever the case may be, something hit you and you thought, I'd like to donate to those folks or folks like that. How do you know, what questions do you ask?
Yeah, that's great. So we think of this in 2 or 3 ways. One is the issue of transparency. The question is the nonprofit in question transparent in how it is that they articulate their mission, their programs, their inputs, outputs, impact, all the ingredients that involve the organization realizing its mission, expressing that to donors, and then I would say evidence-based. Are they transparent about what the evidence would be that demonstrates the impact? And so for many individuals, and again, the majority of folks that give in philanthropy, it's not foundations, it's not corporations and businesses, it's actually individuals. People are surprised with that. That you know, they often lead with their heart, and the argument here would be add the head to the heart. Ask some of those questions, and transparency becomes a huge issue.
But let's say that my favorite charity, or the charity I'm most interested in, their transparency isn't all that great, and yet I want to make sure my donation is private. I don't want them necessarily telling, spilling their guts to the rest of the world here. I mean, what kind of balance is played there?
Right. Well, it is a balance. Now, there are certain metrics, if you will, and most donors don't go to this level, but one could. And that is, has the donor been able to see the Form 990, which is the IRS form that one has to file and declare, particularly when they're over a certain size nonprofit, that articulates all kinds of analysis, including things like compensation and ratios about program to administration and all of that. So, I mean, it's a question to ask. It should be transparent. It's readily available online if one knows where to go. But there's a lot of other issues, too, about issues of boards and governance. The issues of even the regularity of meetings that are open or transparent, I'll use that word again, in governing the life of an organization. These are nonprofits that have a public purpose, a charitable purpose, and therefore the veil and the shroud of darkness and secrecy is to be taken away.
How serious a problem are shady nonprofits and charitable organizations, especially at this time of year?
Yeah. Well, often it's focused on this time of year because this is the holiday season. This is the season where people take pause and there's a generosity of spirit, and which is a great part of community, right? I'm not so sure that there's any more evidence that it's a December problem versus a March problem or what have you. Nor should it be said that because there are these exceptions that do get in the press and become very popular in storytelling around embezzlement or around scandals that happen, that somehow that taints an entire nonprofit sector. That's an unfortunate tainting, it seems to me. But nonetheless, one should practice a discipline just as one would do in investing, frankly, in other avenues of their life, of their pursuits.
What about websites? Charity Navigator, GuideStar, Better Business Bureau has a website as well that has some information. Are they worth checking into?
Well, so the stance would be this: yes, worth checking into, but then with some cautious interpretation. And you've just named the majority. There's several, but those are the big ones. It's difficult to reduce a nonprofit down to a star. To a single variable number, and that's what some of what they are called watchdog sites do. And this is complicated work, and it's difficult. There are reasons and explanations around why it is that certain ingredients culminate in a certain score, and that's where this further probing and questioning. Actually visiting an organization, if it's place-based, some are not place-based, but those that have buildings and structures, making an appointment to actually see staff, inviting oneself in an appropriate way to engage in some way. Become a volunteer if it's a volunteer-type organization. There's ways to actually get up close and personal in a high-touch kind of way that then marries what I've argued is the heart with the head in making a charitable gift.
Now, I understand there are really no state agencies, though, that verify charitable organizations. And basically, you find out they're bad when someone complains, correct?
When they throw the flag.
Yeah, when they throw the
whistle
flag.
Is flown. That's correct.
Is that something we should be looking at changing?
Well, so there are 30x states that actually have a charitable bureau or a state-level organization whose purpose actually is to focus on the charitable sector. Here, nonprofits would register with the Corporation Commission, and then if there is any sense that there's something has run afoul or a person has a great concern, then that's the matter of the Attorney General, and that's just the way Arizona is, structured. I think the larger potential here is, remember that the mainstream of nonprofits are well-intentioned, mission-driven, high-impact focus. They obviously do what they do to make the community a better place, and that would be, the mainstream. So the self-regulation. Nobody wants a stronger, more accountable, appropriate nonprofit sector than the vast majority of the nonprofits. And, and that's been pretty much the stance, at least in places like Arizona.
All right. Great information for this time of year, for all times of
You
year,
bet,
actually.
particularly this time of year.
Yeah, good to have you here. Thanks
Thank
for
you
joining us.
very much. My pleasure.
British artist Bruce Monroe is best known for his large-scale work shown on location, well beyond museum and exhibit halls. But for the first time in his storied career, Monroe is showing at a gallery. Producer Shauna Fisher and photographer Ed Kishel give us a look at Desert Radiance.
Multimedia artist Bruce Monroe is embarking on his first ever showing in a gallery. Known for his large-scale work, this exhibition has a very different feel.
I'd always wanted to make smaller pieces of work, you know, more intimate work, but I kind of left it until, you know, I needed to do the work. So you're led by the not only the opportunity but by an internal need to do it. And I was just getting to that point in my career where I started to really want to make these pieces.
2 years ago, Monroe met world-renowned gallery owner Lisa Setti, and she encouraged him to do a smaller show and offered her gallery. Unsure if he could pull it off, Monroe began to mull over ideas in his mind.
So I started to develop some pieces based on semaphore, Morse code and semaphore. And then I realized I could also use the code to basically describe pieces of work, books that I'd read, or equations, scientific equations, anything really. And it gave me this opportunity to put in language that I really has moved me and changed my life.
What emerged was deeply personal. Following the death of his father, Monroe felt a renewed passion to create. Ferryman's Crossing was one of the works that came out of that period. Inspired by Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, it tells the story of the scene between two ferrymen discussing the mundane in life as they sit on a river.
And all I wanted to do was to create a river with Morse code, using Hermann Hesse's beautiful words, and then try to evoke that feeling of reflectivity when you're standing by a riverbank on a bright sunny day, and the water is completely, you know, like a sort of diamonds sparkling, you know, that sort of thing. And I just wanted to imagine closing your eyes and feeling that light play on your face. And hopefully we've achieved something like that.
Restless Fakir is a combination of wood and conical lights that's based on the bed of nails Indian yogis are said to meditate on.
I don't sort of work in any one material. I just use, what I do is have an idea and then I go and find the materials to say what I want to say.
Monroe is also showing two pieces that involve projectors. Moonwatcher is based on the foreword to the book 2001: A Space Odyssey. He also created 9 clouds just for Setti's gallery. It pays homage to William Wordsworth's poem, I Wandered Lonely as a Little Cloud. The last of the 6 pieces is entitled Eden Blooms, and it's an attractive sculpture that evokes a happy feeling. But whatever emotion is elicited by these works, Monroe hopes gallery goers leave feeling renewed.
I'm also hoping that it's about the positive side of human experience. You know, we're in times, very, very difficult times at the moment, and I am bored of hearing the negative about humanity. I think we've got to start singing about the joy and the connection and coming together and getting rid of this fear and stress that's in the world today.
The exhibition at the Lisa Sette Gallery goes until January 2nd. You can also see Monroe's pieces at the Desert Botanical Garden until May 8th. Thursday on Arizona Horizon, actor Daniel Baldwin joins us in studio to talk about beating drug addiction. That's the next Arizona Horizon. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust. Committed to changing lives and strengthening community through investments in nonprofits and strategic initiatives. More information at pipertrust.org.
Arizona Artbeat is made possible in part by the Flynn Foundation, supporting the advancement of arts and culture in Arizona.